Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Mob Psycho Season 3, Episode 8. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Okay, so we're immediately picking up in the aftermath of last episode as the crew is making their way, to Mount Mud or whatever. And Tomei seems the most she seems very lethargic isn't the word I'm looking for. She seems very blasé about all this because it's the thing of this is all she's ever wanted, and she even says it later on and it leads to an argument later when they're like, yo, we're doing this all for you, why can't you say it? But she's like, no, why? You guys didn't believe me. You were never serious about any of this stuff before. Why now? She's I just want to go back home then, because she's like, now you brought, Takanaka with us. And she's like, I know you're lying to me, because she doesn't want to get her hopes up, because this is something she's aimed for and believed in. But now she found out, wait, no one else in the club believed her. The guys not believing her felt the same way as when Takanaka left. And she just felt very alone. That's like, oh, this has always been my thing and no one else's. So I think that loneliness in all of that was just the most heartbreaking element to it. So the car ends up crashing because Mob gets motion sick. I thought what was happening, especially they're like, yo, did we pass that sign before? I thought the mountainous area was kind of looping, but it turns out, no, they were just lost, because even though he's the adult in the situation, Reagan doesn't have, even though has the ability to drive, he has very little driving experience in the 10 years he's been able to drive. So yeah, it's kind of he's supposed to be your guiding light, and he's a very, very dim light in the darkness. So they're making their way up the trail, because now the question is, well, should we go back down? But it's like, no, let's just go up so we can have a better vantage point. He's like, yeah, they say when you're in a situation like this, it's better to go up than trying to go back down to town. But it's like, well, he's an amateur. Does he really know what he's talking about? He's playing this by ear type of situation. Even the group's kind of starting to not believe in him as much anymore. So, but yeah, Tomei was ready to give up. She was just like, right, I'm not going to move. You guys want to go ahead, you can go, but I'm not going to, because like I said, she just doesn't want to get her hopes up. So, but we see as they're making their way up the mountain, she starts messing around with the guys, and it's she's feeling good again, because it's right, we're having fun and we're together. And that's what she kind of takes away from this. Even later on, Takanaka says right, you're scared. You're willing to relegate all of this to just a pure fantasy. He's like, maybe you're thinking that maybe just us spending time together is the only thing worthwhile from this, because she's like, maybe it'll turn everything into a meaningless joke, that the entire telepathy club time together might mean nothing in the long run. But like I said, it's just that fear that took over her. Because we find out the reason why Takanaka was late wasn't because he was nervous about all this. He was too embarrassed to admit he stayed up all night researching it, because the guys were doing all they can to make this happen. So he kind of felt like, I need to put in just as much effort to make this. I think especially as someone who knows how important this is to Tomei, because he knew how important it was to her, but he walked away because he wasn't getting what he wanted out of the club. He thought he'd find another telepath in the group, but it's like, oh, these are just people obsessed with the occult and aliens. But then now realizing how important this is to her, and seeing how much they're putting in an effort for her sake, that he's like, right, I got to do the same. So he found out, he memorized and found out the spell to summon the spirits, and so everyone's putting in the effort. But then Reagan's like, is there something else going on here? Is there something you're not telling us? And then even Takanaka is able to see all right, Reagan might be a big bold-faced liar, but he is able to kind of pick up certain elements about reading people and their mannerisms. And so Takanaka says the book that the spell came from, that they're following this ritual from, is by an author who was arrested 2 years ago for fraud. Everything in it is BS. Now it turns out the alien encounters are real, but all this other ritualistic stuff to summon aliens isn't real. And so it's like, well, what are we going to do? Should we just give up now? Because Tomei's like, yeah, like we were able to do this, we were able to have this experience, so it's all okay. But Mob wanted, like, no, let's give it one more shot to try and reach out. So together, he channels his power through everyone, kind of sends out, a message to the, space. But he's like, no, like it's all okay. We created this amazing memory, knowing that you guys did this much for me and kind of kept this dream of mine alive. That even if we're not able to now, at the very least we were able to do this together. And then maybe you'll be someday we'll reach out to aliens, and then aliens proceed to show up. Now, at first I was like, is this going to be some trick? Is there going to be more to it? Like, is it going to be something disguised as an alien, like trying to make Tomei happy? But it's like, no, legitimate aliens came to visit. They're exchanging pleasantries, even though like they can't communicate with each other. They shake Tomei's hand because she doesn't know what to do, how to act. She's like, oh, should we get a net? They're like, what are you talking about? When you're going to capture them? Like, how do we know they're not going to be adversarial? But they get welcomed on the ship, and it's a very casual thing. They're eating and sharing games with each other, and it's really beautiful moments spent all this time there. I thought it was interesting too, because like Reagan's kind of like, yeah, the reality of being an adult, where you're just like, man, like all I can think about the fact is that oh, it's officially New Year's now. It's New Year's Day. New Year's morning now, and he's like, all I can think about is like, oh, like the fees that are going to accumulate because of the rental and stuff like that. But then he looks at the kids and see the fun that they're having, and it's like, it's the dazzlingness, the wonder of childhood. It's the beauty of like, being a child and the beauty of the world versus like an adult and the reality of it. Like, still like the crazy situation they were able to experience because of that childlike and dazzling wonderment of, I want to do this thing, I'm going to aim for it and put everything I got into making it happen. And it did. But now it's time to kind of say goodbye. And, they all leave parting gifts for the group. It's like, yeah, it doesn't take much. It's like they're kind of happy about anything, especially like Mob showing off his powers or Reagan leaving behind like that sweater or whatever. And so it's like, yeah, we got to say our goodbyes and we'll see each other again someday. And it's like, oh, so I guess this is where things end. And then immediately we find out, wait, what was his name? Inukawa? Was that it? Yeah. Main dude who was kind of in charge of everything got left behind. And so the entire credit sequence is him on this misadventure, which anyone that's familiar with the manga of Mob Psycho 100, do let me know, is this storyline straight out of the manga? Is this just as like fleshed out in the manga, or is it a situation of this is a condensed version of the story from the manga, or is it just not from the manga at all and this is just anime specific? I'd love to know, especially that outro sequence. That I'm curious, like how much that was, like whether that was like, because a manga has a little more freedom, and animes could do this too, but I feel like you probably see it more in a manga where there's going to be like side chapter things that, because I know not everything from the manga got adapted. There's I forgot what the term is, like otomes. There's like, I think, little gag things that were not adapted from the manga, and I don't know if this is like one of those things that might not have been like fully fleshed out and adapted. Like it might have been its own little section in a manga that just didn't get fully fleshed out. We kind of got a more like hypercut, I guess you could look at it. But yeah, he's journaling everything. Obviously, he wants to get back home, but he can't communicate with aliens. He's like, well, they took me, but they don't have any ill will, right? This is all a misunderstanding, right? Took him back to their planet, and he gets to live it up. He's partying, but then he can't remember a lot of it. Wakes up, kisses all over his body. I'm like, hey, yo. They have a predator on their planet that they've never been able to deal with because they don't know how to operate weapons, and he ends up dealing with the creature. All we saw him do was kick it because the thing's the size of a dog, and so he was able to help them. They champion him as their hero, and so we see later on he's laying down in the same bed with what appears to be the queen, and you're like, wow, so like you're kind of royalty now. But given enough time here, he felt welcomed and embraced wholly, that he's able to communicate with them, because like given enough time and how much time he spent around them, he's able to link with them. I even think it's interesting, one of the last shots you see of his face starts morphing into them having like the big eyes. I think it's like his body is naturally assimilating to their species. Maybe it has something to do with like the nature of their planet morphing his body to be theirs, or maybe there's like a psychic link that's manifesting him like that way, just like how he was animated at the end. The animation in this episode is so really interesting. Like how it's just like there's something like to the animation, especially like there's moments where like they just like there's the like broad details and not the minute details, because like there's plenty of shots throughout this episode where you don't see people's face at all. They're just like blank canvases. But then like you get like some of this like it's this, I don't know how to describe the animation. There's like this fluid animation to it in this style, and then we kind of see it elemented even more like during the credits sequence. But he was able to tell the others he wanted to go home, and it's kind of sad. Like he had his own adventures and lived his life here, which was great, but he missed being home, and they took him home finally. But the problem is, now that he's back home, he's losing his memories. Like all that time he spent with them is becoming fuzzy. So the question is, how much will he remember at all? And we see him again in the sequence, the promo for next episode. So I'm wondering what those conversations are going to be like with Tomo and the rest of the telepathy club. I'd almost wondered, like, are we going to find out he actually has like a secret baby in space? Like, did he kind of procreate or something? Which is kind of a wild conversation to have, considering, like, let's not forget, this ain't like a high school student, which still wouldn't be great, but at least a college or young adult person. This is a middle schooler, so it makes it kind of like weird when you think about it too much. Anime and manga are just kind of like it's Japan doing stuff where you're like, if you think about it, it's weird, but it's just kind of like go with the flow with it, ignore it. It just depends on how much of your brain you really take time to be like, it's kind of weird, right? But nevertheless, that's so fascinating. Like I said, I was expecting I thought it was gonna be a gag thing of like, okay, they immediately brought him back or something. It's like, no, like, because even he doesn't know how long he was gone. I mean, granted, it seems like we'll probably. I mean, I was about to say maybe we'll get some clarity next episode. Might not be any clarity at all. There might be like a one-off line of dialogue about it. Probably won't even touch it at all. Just like maybe he was gone for a couple days, maybe a couple months. Well, he could be gone for a couple months because like they've only got a couple months left of school. They got like maybe 2 or 3 more months of school left because it's nearing like, Tomoe and that other member of their club who are like in their last year of middle school. Like they're about to graduate, so they're in like the last third of their school year. So, well, last fourth rather. But either way, just fascinating developments. I wasn't sure how this episode was going to play out. I don't know if I didn't know whether they would find aliens or not. So for them to go that far and just to have this experience that they all got to enjoy. But like I said, he had a whole other adventure that maybe Inukawa will remember bits and pieces, or maybe it will be a complete blank slate. It might be one of those. Oh God, it's a weird parallel to make, but if you're familiar from a Daka box, how when they were high schoolers they were able to do all this supernatural mystical stuff. This is kind of a spoiler from a Daka box, but not really, because it doesn't take away from the journey that's there. But you have the characters as adults later, and it becomes this thing like, all that stuff kind of faded away. It's almost like, that was like a childhood thing that we did, but now that we're adults, all that wacky supernatural shit we were able to do at school as teenagers, we can't do it anymore. It's just a part of almost like, was that all in our head? Was it something real? It kind of becomes that kind of like the manga kind of ends with that type of conversation. So not that like none of it happened, but it's almost like how much of that was real, how much was that just in our heads as kids versus us as adults looking back on it now, like, what was that? So I don't know if it's going to be something like that where like he doesn't remember it all the older he gets and more time that passes. Like he'll completely forget, but there'll be some like spark of a memory, and I don't know. It's so fascinating that that's like mixed in with the end credits, and that's just a whole back section of the episode, and then it's just like, he's back on Earth, and it's almost like how much of that, it's almost like a far off dream that he'll probably, only assume that it was and not know that it was real. So very, very interesting episode. I'm excited to see where the next episode ends up taking us going forward with all this. Obviously, I watched a promo, so I'm like, some very interesting moments to see where like that storyline is going to go, especially what that means for Mob and how he's going to react to that. Got bits and pieces of that, but like get it in greater context. It's going to be interesting. But yeah, I've run my mouth off long enough. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.